Hey, I'm Nate, and this is the Dwarven Forge Build of the Month for September of 2019. And this build is the PsychoTROLLic Mushroom Trip. We built this with one Burrows Chambers set, one Burrows Tunnels set, and one Burrows Elevation set. So let's take a look at this crazy psychedelic subterranean troll adventure, shall we? Let's say the hook on this is something like a Sylvan community, maybe a bunch of peaceful gnomes, or maybe it's some quiet little pixies or something. They call upon the PCs for help. A number of their village have sort of been dragged off into the woods or disappeared or whatnot. The PCs can follow the trail of blood or dragged bodies or whatnot deeper into the dark part of the woods, and there in the ground there's a clawed out hole which leads into some burrows. So they can descend down there, perhaps expecting some sort of small critter. We did this build on some stilts here to get a nice little multi-level thing going, so they can really feel like they're dropping down. So imagine they drop down here, then drop down even further, boop, work their way down here. So when they get down to the bottom, maybe over here there's a bunch of bones, right? It's like gnome bones and the like, maybe some animal bones and whatnot. There's probably like big clumps of dead flesh and then blood and spat around. Definitely not like a friendly place. They should be on edge. And everything is also pretty small and claustrophobic and damp, right? It's a sort of wet earth and dark and gnarly. And then over here we did a little thing with some spider webs. This is there's like a pet spider living here or something. As long as they don't go through, they won't get messed with, but if they go in too much, they'll have to fight a little spider of some sort. In this case, I just took the flexi web and I just bent it and popped it in there. Another trick you could do is you can separate the burrows just a little bit and slide the webs in between and then push them in there to hold them up nice and vertical. So they could hack their way through the web if they want and get in. Maybe there's a little bit of treasure in there or something. Maybe there's like, they can take some sort of spider venom or there's spider eggs they could do something with. Anyways, they sort of make their way into the hardest thing. It gets a little maze-like, right? A little labyrinthine. And they wander around. Maybe they start hearing like some crazy noises, right? And this is where they should get, there's this weird grunting and like panting and like just sounds of something kind of large, maybe like stumbling around and the like. And they'll also probably notice like the walls of this whole thing are like, they just bear claw marks. Like the whole thing it was dug by like really sharp talons. So they should really, hopefully be on edge at this point. Oh, and also because it's so wet, right? There's just water dripping from the ceiling. It's very tight quarters. There's roots hanging down, like torches probably just keep going out. Like it's really hard to keep light in here. So it's further just sort of spooky and claustrophobic and dark and just a terrible place to be. So eventually they'll round the corner, perhaps. Maybe they'll go this long way if they're brave, whatever. And they'll come across, there is a troll just sort of hanging out in this chamber. They may or may not notice that this troll is acting weird, right? It's kind of just sort of, its eyes are glazed over and it's kind of swatting at the air, and it's definitely just, it's out there, right? It may, if they wait long enough and they just sort of observe it, it's gonna start gnawing on its arm. And they may be watching horror as it just gnaws straight through its arm and it like just rips its own hand off, right? And then throws it across the room, kind of freaking out, and the hand kind of skitters about. What's going on here? I'm using the egg sacs here as to represent strange fey mushrooms. So this troll used to be just a pretty normal, nasty troll living in the forest, and it was digging this burrow for itself, and it came across these mushrooms. And maybe this is a weird pocket that's connected to the Feywild, and they're kind of unnatural, and it, for whatever reason, it decided to start eating them. Maybe they smelt like meat to it or something, or it was drawn in by the Fey magic or whatever. So it started eating these mushrooms, and they have a psychedelic effect on it. And it's because it's a troll and it absorbs, the things it eat affected. It's really started like tripping hard and crazy. And it's actually it's like seeing into the Feywild. It sees its own arms as enemies and starts eating off its hands, and it rejects. The hand will come like scampering back and it rejects it. It won't let it reform, and eventually it'll regenerate a new hand, and then the original hand will spawn off and start growing a small new troll. So this has been happening for a while, And as they're going to gather, these little new trolls have been slowly going. There's a little swarm of them. So unknown to the PCs, and there's a whole little band of these little, these crazy little troll spawnlings up here. So they're kind of hiding out from the big troll because it's sometimes when it gets tripping too hard, it thinks that they're food also and whatever. So they're hiding out here, and there's a lot of them. And what you could do if you want is you could hide this whole this whole upper segment until it's revealed. So the theory is that if the players come through here or close enough to here that the spawnlings can smell them, they start jumping up and down greedily and hungrily, because it's hard for them to sneak out, right? It's hard for them to sneak out and go get food. They've been raiding the villages. They're the ones that are actually getting the gnomes or the pixies and eating them. But it's hard for them to sneak out. A lot of them get killed and eaten by the big troll. So they're ravenous. So when they smell fresh flesh underneath, they're going to start digging through the floor. And take this thing out, and they can actually drop them down through this the floor hole. When they come dropping down, all the dirt will come pouring down to the players, and once again, maybe extinguishing the torch. So it's really hard to keep your fire going, which is particularly if you're going to fight a troll, becomes problematic and the like. So the theory is now the players are faced with a whole bunch of these little troll swarmlings, plus there's the tripping troll over here. One way or another, it's going to turn into kind of a wild, dynamic fight, is with or without the little trollings, the weird, handy trolls. They're gonna, dealing with this troll is going to be interesting because he's going to be wildly unpredictable, because he's having this weird psychedelic Feywild trip, and he's sort of seeing between the planes and whatever. And he's probably also give him some extra oomph. Maybe if he hits the player or bites them, he infects them with the psychedelic effects. So maybe they start seeing into the Feywild, and then they're going on the trip with him. And it's getting crazy. If these the little trollings come out, it can turn into a whole thing, and maybe they're trying to run up here and jump down, or they're going through a thing. But it's sort of a fun area to sort of zigzag around, all claustrophobic and hard to keep your fire going if you're trying to burn the troll and defeat it. But assuming they do defeat the troll, or maybe they run away and run from all these things, they can then collect these Fey mushrooms. Of course, that may also lead them to start tripping for the next 8 hours. But after they enjoy themselves, they can go back to the Sylvan village, and the villagers can reward them handsomely for these mushrooms, as well as for just killing the creature that was killing their people. All right, I hope that showed you that a troll can sure be a fungi.
Cut. Take two.
And that was the PsychoTROLLic mushroom trip. A pretty far out there adventure that you could do with only 3 Burrows sets. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and maybe you learned a few tips for builds of your own at home. So like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more quality content like this from us at Dwarven Forge. And now we have a mushroom trip of our own to attend to. Back to the anvil.